Hello and welcome to Is This Thing On podcast with myself, Michael Jansen, and my good friend, Alysia Knowles. How are you, Alysia?
I'm doing all right. I just want to address something while we're in the intro.
Tell me.
For the last episode, I said I called it "Is This Thing" podcast.
You didn't. Are you serious?
There was no on.
Where?
100%. At the very beginning of the intro. You guys will all have seen that by now or heard that. So
I didn't even notice that. I literally didn't even notice that.
I didn't even notice it either until I'm watching it back and I'm like, oh, good job.
That's so funny.
You know the name of your podcast,
That's
girl.
so funny. And it's weird. Like it's funny you were watching it back. I was watching episode 12 back today because there was a bunch of comments on there that I haven't replied to. So if you're listening to this we haven't replied to the episode 12 comments, then apologies. I promise we'll get back to it. But that was yeah, I didn't notice that at all. All I noticed in that episode, however, was just how overly excitable I was. I'm not sure if this is a normal thing, but you know, it was there. It was definitely noticeable.
That was before the world crumbled.
It was.
Michael.
It was.
Everybody was in a little bit lighthearted place. We were all just kind of feeling the dizziness of Corona. We were just kind of winging life. Life has since got much more serious very quickly on a global front. But that was it's marking the journey. Document, don't create.
Documenting the journey, indeed. And to document that journey, we are not the only ones who document things. The other people who document things are the news, of course. And so on today's episode, we're going to talk about a couple of news pieces, and these news pieces are interesting enough that they warrant, frankly, an entire episode to themselves. So I'm just going to jump straight in.
Because the first piece of news, chatting so much. Yeah,
we do. It does continue. It moseys on. So the first piece of news is and I want to say this correctly. It's short name Chaz, you know, and we're not talking about your favorite high school bully or your regular neighborhood jock. We are talking about the Capitol Hill Autonomous Zone in Seattle. What is the Capitol Hill Autonomous Zone, you may ask? It's effectively what's happened. They've blocked off, because of the police blocking off certain blocks of area in Seattle. The local residents have kind of taken it into their own hands to kind of run the place. Now, the reason this is very amusing is because in the way that Twitter has described this, I'm not sure if you've seen Monty Python and the Holy Grail.
I have not. Don't come at me.
Okay, I won't. However, that's exactly the problem that Fox had. Now, a Fox News anchor saw a tweet about this place, and there was a line. Somebody tweeted, sarcastically, mind you, someone tweeted a line from Monty Python and the Holy Grail, and the line was, I don't want to lie to you, it's something along the lines of, I'm going to see if I can try and find it here, an autonomous collective, and we take the opportunity to run as a sort of executive officer for the week. And, you know, which in itself is a suggestion for any form of sort of government is, you know, in the capitalistic Western world is problematic in itself. But this person was...
Anarchy.
Right. So, and that's literally the line. It's an anarcho-syndicalist commune is what they call it. It's an anonymous collective. So people are just sort of doing their own thing and running it themselves.
Whoever that was in Seattle, I'm with you guys.
So, yeah. So obviously is the sarcastic line, and Fox News, bless them, they jumped on this, and they were just like, how can people be suggesting this seriously? Blah, 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 blah. Obviously, they've never seen Monty Python and the Holy Grail, and obviously the internet loved it and took the piss for the next couple of days, which, agreedly, I would have as well. Now, that wasn't the only interesting part about this Fox News covering Chaz. He did it in such a way that it came across super patronizing, very condescending,
as Fox does.
You know, as they are well known to do. And this was noticed by one of our favorite creators, Mr. Russell Brand.
Hey Russell, how you doing, girl?
Big man Russell. He put out an 8-minute video, kind of piecing taking apart rather this news piece that Fox did. And he offered up two perspectives that I thought were super, super interesting that I would love for us to talk about. The first one is this condescending, patronizing nature, the way in which they spoke about this autonomous zone, and why that's a problem. Because in a world where your right-wing, we'll call Fox News our sort of right-wing conservative media site, anything that is even remotely centrist to them is considered like extreme left-wing, way over, like super overly liberal craziness. It's ridiculous to consider the fact that any group of people could manage themselves and sort of figure out that actually the system of government and the system of structure and authority in this space doesn't serve us, so we reject it.
Yeah.
And we will kind of like do our own thing. And Fox News
and also America.
Yeah.
Like, just like, I feel like that word should say enough, but apparently it doesn't. And I don't know when we lost sight of the fact that America, and this is the thing, like, to comment on this before you finish here. America is a democracy. And we are so happy about that all the time, that we force other countries.
But is it though? But is it though? And this is what I find so interesting.
Well, that's the thing. Idealistically, it should be, right? Like, it should be for the people by the people, right?
Precisely.
And then Fox News wants to go run their mouth. I'm gonna put up a meme that made me laugh so hard. America. So here's the thing. Fox News wants to be so American, but then like goes against very American ideals or what America's like constitutionally stands for. And then they're like, "Oh, you're not American. We're Christians. Freedom of religion. Very American. Like, you can't be over here." So, continue the story.
That everything that you're talking about is precisely the point. So, what I find interesting is the interpretation of this Americanness that is sort of, touted on the internet, where everyone's sort of like super patriots, super red, white, and blue, whatever you want to call it. And you get people that will say things like, "Oh, I wish Trump would just institute martial law, and then we'll go out in the streets and show them what's what." Obviously referring to, his right to bear arms, etc. But the problem is that people have so aptly pointed out is that martial law means that the government takes away law. So the regular constitution gets taken away. And you know what? That constitution that he's talking about, his Second Amendment rights to bear arms, that constitution is taken away. So actually, if Trump puts, sort of sets up martial law, you don't have your guns anymore. Education.
Well, this is the thing that messes me up, though, is like Trump's martial law might be exactly that, though, for the right wing. I'm gonna start calling them terrorists.
Yep.
These right wing terrorists who are taking judgment into their own hands. And we're seeing this very evidently through America. Like, there's been legit lynchings with the mask of suicide. And you know what? If it was one, I would maybe even give you the benefit of the doubt.
But not like that, though. It would never, ever, ever, in no universe would it ever make sense that a person of color would commit suicide in a fashion that took advantage of the way that they'd been traumatized for centuries. That's not a thing.
Yeah.
That is not going to happen, guys. Really, 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 really. That's not a thing.
And let's say, again, this is the point that I want to drill home. Let's say that there was one person who was like, you know what'll show them? And just being fed up with seeing everything, with being fed. Let's Let's say that, yeah?
Mm.
But did all of those people call each other and be like, let's all do it?
Random people that had no reason to know each
Or are
other.
there people... Yeah, or is it people taking law into their own hands, playing judge and jury? See, and that's where I'm like, okay, you guys, you want to call it, you want to mask it by suicide because what? And then all of a sudden, there's no footage. You can't get the footage for the places that this person would be. All of this is very suspicious, and it's frustrating because this is Trump's martial law. This is Trump's American, like, you know what I mean? Like, he's essentially weaponized the right-wing terrorists to the point where maybe to save a buck on actually paying the military. But he's intentionally or unintentionally created that.
Frankly, I'm not going to lie. I think we, especially in democracies or perceived democracies, we love to run around saying how the government is inept. We love to tout this sort of notion that our government's sort of inadequacies, ineptocracies, and all these things. But they know what they're doing. Like, you have to know that they do know what they're doing.
Yeah.
They are doing this on purpose. Like, it's not like those people sitting in those chairs don't understand big words. Like, they know what they're doing. Like, as much as we'd love to believe it, they know what they're doing, and that's the problem. That's the real problem. They know what they're doing.
Yeah, and that again. So even if the right wings don't actually understand what martial law is, they're definitely enacting whatever they think it is and running through the streets.
100%.
Because it's insane right now. Like, the videos going around right now, and I know that some of them may be anecdotal, but most of them aren't. Of people in very, very, I don't want to call out like the Midwest, but I'm going to call it the Midwest a little bit. Like, in very Midwestern cities, very, very white, where there's like one guy or a few people protesting, and the anti-protesters come and beat them with the cops as witness. Excuse me.
And I'm so sick and tired, frankly. I'm so sick and tired of seeing the same sort of videos.
That's the thing. The last number I saw, and it may have changed by the time this comes out, so please don't quote me and run away with this, but was since the time of George Floyd's death, the police have killed 120 people.
Wow.
Way to go, America.
My lord.
Like, evil white
Did
people.
you see there was a sorry to cut you off, there was a video by
Okay.
What's his name, big old Arnold Schwarzenegger, that I don't know where he put it, but he shared a video. I think it was on Facebook that I saw it, and I'll send this over to you as well. I thought it was brilliant. And he obviously condemning all of the sort of the racism and the sort of this far right extremism. And he calls out Donald Trump, and he's like, President Trump, let me help you write a speech, because you need to condemn this racism and stuff, and condemn the support of far right communities, etc. And he said something to the effect, the country that beat the Nazis is not a place where, in World War II, is not a place where the Nazi flags and salutes are now welcome, or something like that. Sort of like this anti-white, this white supremacist, far right, conservative agenda, and he literally he called it so like blunt, clear, open, whatever you want to call it. He really went in on it, and I was super impressed. It's a brilliant video. This is a great speech.
Arnie.
Yeah. Why does it take a man from Austria to come and fucking
he was California's governor for a while.
Yeah, he was.
That, right?
Absolutely, yeah, of course. But that's what I'm saying. Like, I mean, why does it take a dude from Austria to come and shake things up? Not that there are others that aren't doing it. But moving swiftly along. So that's, I mean, this is super anti-government now. But let's also flip it from another perspective. So let's have a look at corporate America. Let's see what's happening there. The recent news is that obviously, you know, I'm sure you know a little bit about the antitrust probe that's been going on recently in Congress. The government is sort of looking at the tech giants and saying, you know, you guys are getting a little bit big, a little bit powerful, and you're actually now starting to have an effect not only on the economy, but on politics and on society and everything as a whole. So they've been trying for the last year.
Which, can we pause there?
Tell me.
For a second. Question. Do you think companies, organizations should have say or power within politics and within the country?
That's a really difficult answer to give a blanket yes or no to. I think let me put it.
We love gray answers on this show.
We do. We
we love a good gray answer.
We love a good cop out. But I'll explain, because we always do have a good reason for it. I would love to say yes, and I would love to say no. I would love to say that no, they shouldn't have an impact on politics. I would love to say that politics should be decided by the people, like genuinely decided by the people, and not by the checkbooks of big companies, because we all know about lobbying. We all understand how not only that, from not even like just from like a taxation point of view, but you know, we're looking at the lobbying power of the National Rifle Association, which is obviously supported by certain corporate entities to do with ammunition and and all these things. But if we like really broke that down, I would love for politics to be only about the people. But let's all face it, frankly, money makes the world go round. And I think more practically, there needs to be a more stringent framework in which corporate and political entities operate, and how they have their relationships and how they interact. So when you're looking at something like a Facebook, who is refusing to hold or to censor or to control political content because they don't feel it's their place, even though you've got right-wing extremists that are posting content that's blatantly incorrect.
Right.
But also at the same time, they kind of want to hold their status as the kingmaker of America. They decide who wins, right? Like they decide who gets seen, very literally. So in a world where that's even possible, I mean, this is your Rupert Murdochs of the past. You know, whoever controls the speakerphone is the one who decides what message gets sent. And in a world where that is the case, I don't think that you can have one without the other. You can't have the politics without the money of corporate America, whether that is media or whether that is like the ammunitions and arms industry. Regardless of what's going on, you can't have one without the other, because frankly, campaigns don't run themselves. And even AOC herself could not run a campaign without some degree of funding. Wherever the funding comes from, I don't give a shit where the funding comes from. But the point is, those things need to happen. And if they need the help of corporate entities to do so, there needs to be a very strict, very solid framework on how that relationship exists. And then obviously the next question is who runs that. That's the next question.
Well, okay, so this is my thing. As I don't think, in my personal opinion, there's actually a way to police that. Because people are going to go in back doors. They're going to do backdoor deals. That's just human nature. Let's just be
100%.
real.
100%.
And money plays a big part in that. So I wanted to ask this question because I've been posting a lot recently about brands or brand CEOs who have funded, let's say, the Trump organization. For him to run again, blah, 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 right? The funding for different places that I personally don't agree with. And how that kind of ties into cancel culture. And the reason why I wanted to talk about this and ask that question is because you are talking about Jeff Bezos. And this, we'll get into the story in just a second. But I've heard the rhetoric a lot, like, oh, cancel culture is getting out of hand. Millennials are getting out of hand with this cancel culture. And in a world where business,
or are you just uncomfortable being called out?
Exactly, where businesses do play such a big part in politics. They fund so much.
Of course they do, yeah.
You know what I mean? And whether or not it's that actual business, like let's take JCPenney's for example, whether or not it's JCPenney's or the CEO or chairman of JCPenney's, you get to decide if you continue to fund that. You know what I mean? And if enough people stand up and go, nope, I don't buy that makeup brand anymore. I don't go to that grocery store. I don't eat that ice cream. Like, I don't do these things. Then they won't have, hopefully, the funds to then continue donating or funding certain organizations or lobbying for certain laws. So, that being said, I don't think it's about cancel culture. I think it's about how our economy is run. And who has the most dollars usually wins whatever they want, whether that's laws or campaigns or whatever that may be.
So this is half the problem. So this is half the problem. This is half the problem. So half the problem is the fact that it's not only about who has the money. You can look at Michael Bloomberg, for example. Bloomberg's attempt at running for office. He spent like 500 million or some stupid amount. Sorry, don't quote me on the number. But he spent a stupid amount of money and got nowhere. So the money alone, nothing. The point is, you have to have the money and the people. So as much as I'd love for the corporate entities to not have a say in the politics, the corporate entities need to provide the money. Of course, there is money that needs to go into the campaign. But, and this is where, going back to the point I said, education. If the politicians say the right words, if monkey throw coconut up and say, ooh, look here, and the people are like, oh, the politician he's going to win the vote. Because that's how politics works, and it's how it has worked forever. And the basis of this almost always comes back down to education. But how do you make sure that education runs correctly? You need money. So the cycle begins again.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. Fund the people who are in line with your morals. And I know that becomes very taxing on like your everyday regular schmegular person who's just trying to like go to the supermarket, buy a few frozen pizzas, like pay, like
and
you know what I mean?
That is
like
the problem.
Person who's
that is
just
the problem.
To,
there
like,
is no time
life.
though. There's no time for that anymore. There's no time to be an ordinary human being anymore. The time for that is done. There's no time to just be like, oh, you know, I'm just here. I'm just trying to chill and live my life.
No time, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you. Stop copying out. No gray answers over here.
We love gray answers on this show.
We do. Okay.
I feel very seen. I feel very seen now. I can't have no grey answers anymore. What am I going to do without my grey answers?
No, I love that. I love that. Because here's the thing. We all have like some sort of social responsibility, right?
Yeah.
How I'm taking that in my hands right now because I'm so far away from the U.S. is trying to, A, be educated, and C, educate other people, right? And that's... Yep. I don't have the proper words, though I'm over here saying a bunch of them, the proper words to explain or educate people. But now that we have social media, it's easier than ever to source the people who do have the information and then continue sharing that information out. So it's not that hard. Stop acting like it's so difficult.
So this is that even there, that's the problem. So everywhere that we go, there's this vicious sort of like this horrible room with doors on every side. So whichever door you go to try and like figure out the problem, there's another set of doors that just doesn't either doesn't answer it or kind of sets you back 4 doors. You go on social media and the problem is
100%
you disappear into a Twitter hole of trolls. People
right.
who are like,
so how I want to address that to give like a solution rather than a problem is if everybody picked something, you know what I mean? Find one thing that sparks something in you that you care about, that you're willing to learn about, that you can try to provide more information to. You don't need to know everything. You know what I mean? But then consume at least a little bit of what other people know. You don't have to save the world. You can't. You're never going to do it by yourself. But if we pick one thing and choose to educate other people on that, this isn't an all or nothing everything. Either you fight for all the causes or none of the causes. You know what I mean? Like, just find something. And that's that very, like, what's the thing? Is you can't change the world, but you can change the world for one person. It's kind of like that kind of mentality.
That's interesting.
Like,
yeah.
Just find something that you can do. And whether that's you stop using straws, or you donate to Black Lives Matter, or you donate to causes in Yemen, or you go be a video journalist for the whatever your thing is, whatever is manageable in your life, do that thing.
So, I guess kind of going back to the point with the doors. The doors is not so much that, there's so many potential problems, so don't pick any. My comment about the doors is more to do with the fact that you go through that door and you double down on this point where you're like, okay, based on these statistics, this or that is a problem. I remember what I was going to say. The right side of history. Just remember, right side of history. I'm coming back to that.
Okay, remembering.
The point about the doors is that if you pick one thing and you decide to use social media to help you explain this thing and educate the people and reach as many people as possible, there is another person on the other side of a computer who is fighting against you about the same thing. And the problem is he's also doing the same thing. He or she, bigotry knows no gender.
Opportunity and bigotry.
Yep. Yeah. But sorry, that's not funny. It's actually real. But the problem is that it's that's the world we're living in. And what's what I mean? You disappear into a Twitter hole of trolling and just people being angry at each other. And the problem is that that's not productive, I want to say, but at the same time, I'm sure that you can't do nothing. I'll leave it here. So I'm gonna get to my point on the right side of history. I'm gonna leave it there, and then we're gonna jump onto. Oh wait, I think that's our last news piece. But I'm gonna leave it here. That's my last bit, and then you can give your closing arguments. My closing argument is that we're arguing the same thing. We are
just doing it real passionately.
Real passionate. We want two closing arguments. That's how serious this is. But the point is, I'm glad that there is some laughter here because it's very intense and we're getting really hyped up. But I'm glad there is at least a smile. My closing argument, I will get to it eventually, is that this is only gonna go one way. Oh, there is only one outcome. The bigots will lose, and equality and justice will win. Eventually. They will win eventually. We've seen it time and time and time again all throughout history. The right wing, the conservatives were just like, oh, no, we don't like that new rock and roll music. You know, them Elvis and his devil hips, we don't like it. And then not, obviously, allowing people to play rock and roll is not the same as treating people of all races equally. But the point is that in history, bigots always lose. Good will prevail, the bigots will lose. How that happens or in what span of time that happens is another question. But the point is, history is going to decide what is right. And you better be on the right side of that. If there's any of that stuff that makes you uncomfortable, whatever, if anything makes you uncomfortable, makes you feel seen, someone calls someone a Karen, or there's a conversation about racism and you feel uncomfortable, you know there's a problem. You know there's some stuff you have to do.
Address that.
You have to because it's there's gonna come a point. There is going to come a point where people are going to be like, you know, there's the no going back. There's the point of no return. And people are going to be after that 10 years, 50 years, 100 years, 1,000 years after that, and they're going to look back at this time, and your name will be there. If there was like this imaginary list of for and against, your name will be on one of those sides. You better make sure that your name is on the right side of that list, because it's gonna be a bad time for you.
That's my thing here. I told everybody to pick a cause, right? What I would say here is, at this point in history, if you are American, pick this cause. Know what's going on in your own country. I wouldn't say this for the whole world, because there's definitely more problems in the Middle East and everything closer to home
100%.
for people to like focus on and push
100%.
their governments towards and have a voice in. But if you are in America and you are American and you live and breathe this country, pick this cause. Know what it is that people are in the streets for, because the silence is violence, or silence is complicit, is real right now. Because the more voices, and you don't have to even go out and protest, it's where you cast your vote, educating your neighbors, watching documentaries to really understand how ingrained all of this is into who we are. We are all a little bit racist, and I hate to say that, because, sorry, hold on, I'm trying to find the name of this, because we all don't want to be, we all think we're not, but the truth is we grew up with it.
Of course we did.
And
Everyone did. Everyone did.
Us. So when you grew up with white privilege, if you are white, even if you are lighter skinned in some regions, you grew up with a privilege. Let's start with just acknowledging that.
And the other thing about privilege,
and acknowledge it.
I'm so glad you brought that up. Like saying, okay, so let's say we're having this argument, whatever. Like whatever. You say to me, yeah, but you have to recognize that you have white privilege. That's not like an attack. It's not like I'm saying you're a bad person because you have privilege. It's not like this is like a statement about your character as a human being. White privilege is not about you. White privilege is about the system that you live within, and to say that it doesn't exist means that you don't understand your system. It is real. It is there, whether you like it or not.
Well,
you don't understand photosynthesis. The tree still grows, boy. Listen, it's real. It exists. But
that's the thing is people. You're seeing two people split in different ways, right? You're seeing the people who are willing to educate themselves, and you're seeing the people who are adamantly in self-defense. Okay, let's even say three. And then the people who are just straight right-wing terrorists, right? Who are just like out there living. They're not even into self-defense. They're just in hatred. And I don't know if there's any coming back from that. You know what I mean?
Do you think there is no coming back for people like that? Sorry, there's total caveat, but
I think if you hung somebody from a tree, probably. If you've gone out
in terms of like societal forgiveness, maybe, but like we've like in history, you definitely see people that have personally done the work and have learned something. You've learned, you can unlearn it. I like to think so.
I want to say yes.
Yeah, I like to think so.
I want to say yes, but what I found more often than not is that people who are that far inside their hatred usually have a hard time coming out.
Yep.
So will I say that it is possible? I'm just talking like percentage wise. That's not who I'm going to be fighting with on the internet. That's not the hole I'm willing to go down. That's not the hill.
Oh yeah, that's a lost cause. I from that perspective, I get you 100%.
That's what I mean.
Yeah.
So on the people who are in self-defense, maybe there's time, like a bridge to come over. But even the people who are learning, I'll use my example. I don't know very much about Palestine. I know kind of gist of everything. I mean, I've lived in the Middle East for a long time, so there's been people to educate me on certain things. A few days on social media, a few days actually yesterday. It'll be a few days by the time you guys watch this. I posted this video of Israelis, like the actual people themselves, not the military, in the streets protesting the annexation of the West Bank.
Yep.
I thought it symbolized this taking of responsibility for what has been happening and then actively going against it. However, one of my Palestinian friends slid in the DMs and was like, nah, girl, that's not a thing. And it wasn't even in like hatred of the video. She's like, I just don't think this is the message that needs to get out. I think what needs to get out is the fact that Israel is about to take over the West Bank by force, you know? And
not that there are a couple of people on that side of the wall that
so
are sort of trying to do a good thing.
Right. So, but, and again, is not to, again, I don't know these people. I don't know very much about them. But that isn't what needs to be shared. The same way the cop videos with them kneeling and dancing.
Exactly. Like, that's not the point. Yeah.
What needs
100%.
to be shared is the actual problem.
Yeah.
And so and then I went and thought about it myself a little bit, is if I see that video, and it even happened with me, saw the video of the Israelis protesting, and my thought was, oh, the Israelis got this. You know? And there was almost a little voice in me that went, okay, well, you don't need to do or say anything. Then you don't. They've got it covered. They got it. You know, like they're doing the things out there, like. And so then it automatically removed my responsibility. And that's the problem. And I don't think we're, as a population, specifically as a white population, willing to go, it's hard and I don't want to take responsibility. It's hard and I don't want to do this. It's hard and it sucks and it makes me feel guilty. White guilt is a real thing. Get over it. Move on. Sorry. And
it is hard. And there's so much work to do. Even for the people that are the furthest down the road of doing the work, there is still so much work to do.
And that's the thing, is that this is the point that I want to make with this before we jump off, is that she slid in my DMs. Super nice. She was like, look, here's the education, which isn't her responsibility. She doesn't have to do that, but she did take time to do that. And me as a person, I had to listen to that. I couldn't go and stand by the video when a person who's being oppressed on that side is telling me that this isn't what I should be sharing and holding on to that for dear life. I have to listen to that. So it's the same way, like if you misshare information and somebody checks you or corrects you, you do not have to take offense to that because you did not know. And also again, it's not about you. Implement the right. Again, yes, but if you are actively out here trying to do the work, and this is what holds people back, I think, is they're so scared of doing it wrong that they don't do anything. And this is what I'm saying, is if somebody corrects you, you do not have to take that as a failure or rejection. You take it as something that you learn from.
That's guidance,
and then you do better.
Yeah.
And that's the thing is so even for me, I was inactive on social causes for a very long time because there was this rhetoric of we don't need a white savior and we don't need you to fight for us, we don't need you to fight our battles kind of thing. And I was like, okay, well, I took that as I need to step back. I need to let them do the work and I'll just not be racist over here.
Yeah.
But that, and this is what I've learned, is that that's not what that means. It means know your place as an ally. And don't try to be, I'm going to use specifically Black Americans, don't try to be the Black American getting offended for Black Americans. Be the white ally doing what they can as a white ally to make things better. And that's
That's the line in the sand.
Yeah, which I didn't even know. I didn't know. And that's the thing is if I didn't know, I know that there's so many people out there who didn't know. So it's about learning and being willing to take the criticism, not taking it personally, not getting offended, not going on the self-defense.
And
but
keep
hearing
going.
it and then going, okay, so then how do I adjust to, if, again, and this is, I'll say this till death do me part, but if your intention is to be an ally, why would you not listen to the people who you're being an ally for?
Yep.
And so take that feedback. And even if they're angry, even if somebody comes at you mad, hear it. Hear it for what it is, and then figure out what you're supposed to do. Google it. There's so many resources on the internet right now. And then move forward and keep doing the work. I guess that's my closing argument.
I like it. Yours wins. in the same battle. It's good to have a win. So yeah, I mean, if I've kind of, I'm gonna be a little bit more honest than usual now. I am, of course, you know how terrified we are of feedback and criticism. And as you say, if someone educates you and gives you that knowledge, then you need to change. So I want to hear what people are thinking. I want to know what people are thinking. I want to know what people are doing. If you are seeing things in the news and you feel a type of way and you're doing the work, whether you're doing the work, whether you're not doing the work, you don't think you need to do the work, whatever the case is, like, just let's talk. Let us know in the comments.
Have a conversation.
DM us.
Yeah.
Like, I want to know and I want to talk, because I think, as much as I run, of course, run the risk of saying the wrong thing and of doing the wrong thing and not being an ally in the right way, my ego will be bruised, but for the right purpose. And I want that to be a constructive outcome. And I want that to be a functional conversation that ends up with actually like a practical takeaway that people are like, oh shit, okay, I get it. So and I'm aware that everyone needs to have that moment. So if you're watching this, if you're listening to this, let us know. Talk to us. Tell us, what are you thinking? What are the things that are happening in your communities? So yeah, so I'd say that's where we leave it. Like, I think, let's talk. Like, yeah, let's talk. I think it's the only way that we're going to be able to keep any momentum going is if this sort of that ripple effect of, like, you know, everyone's at the one big concert, and then, you know, we talk about it on the way home, and then we talk about it to our friends who weren't there, and then they talk about it. Like, that's the ripple effect that's the real social network that we run information and ideas through, and ideologies. And I think that's how probably we're best gonna be able to tackle this thing. And it's not going to go away in a month. It's not going to go away in 6 months. It's still going to be a lifetime worth of work to do. But it's work that is worth doing, I believe. And on that note, thank you so much for joining us on episode 14 of Is This Thing On Podcast. I am Michael Jansen, signing out, and thank you very much. We'll see you on the next episode.
See you guys later.